Chapter 846. Elaine knew clearly that this was a threat. As long as she started eating, and as long as she reached out her hand to touch the lunchbox, she would probably have to suffer a beating. Therefore, Elaine cried as she continued pleading, "Sister Brabus, you have already beaten and scolded me as much as you wanted to yesterday. Can you please be merciful and let me off today?" Brabus raised her brows before she said, "Even if I let you off, who can bring my dead mother back to life then? Do you know how miserable my mother was when she drank a bottle of pesticide and laid in the hospital bed as she tried desperately to catch her breath as she suffocated to death?" Elaine burst into tears as she said, "Sister Brabus, I know that you are a filial daughter, but I have not harmed your mother in any way." Brabus replied angrily, "You are still trying to talk nonsense with me? Let me tell you something. My mother was killed because of her unfilial daughter-in-law. That is the reason why I feel so sick when I see someone like you. You should be glad that we are not living in ancient times right now. Otherwise, I would have already chopped you up into pieces." Lady Richard replied triumphantly, "Brabus, you are right. This kind of woman should have been locked up in a pig cage in ancient times. We should lock her up in a bamboo cage with a few big rocks in it before we throw her into the river and drown her directly." Elaine was so frightened that she did not dare to say anything at all. She did not even dare to step forward to collect her own lunchbox. She could only kneel down in front of Brabus like a young child who had committed a mistake. Brabus finished her last spoonful of porridge before she used her steamed bun to collect all the remaining rice pieces in the lunchbox before she ate it all in one bite. After that, she suddenly exclaimed, "Oh! I feel as though I am still a little hungry." At this time, one of the other female inmates pointed at the plastic basket before she said, "Sister Brabus, isn't there still another lunchbox left in the basket? You should eat that portion too." Brabus looked at Elaine before she deliberately smiled and said, "Oh, Elaine, would you mind if I ate your breakfast too?" "No, I would not mind it. I would not mind at all." How would Elaine possibly dare to say anything at all? She could only nod her head repeatedly. Brabus smiled before she said, "I am glad that you will not mind it or have any comments at all. You see, I am a person who really enjoys exercising a lot. Therefore, I naturally have a bigger appetite compared to an ordinary person. I used up a lot of my physical strength and energy to beat you up yesterday, so I really need to eat more today to make up for it." After that, Brabus walked toward the plastic basket before she took out the lunchbox inside. After opening up the lunchbox, Brabus held one steamed bun in her hand as she held the lunchbox with the porridge in her other hand. Since Brabus wanted to deliberately torture Elaine, she purposely slurped the porridge as loud as she possibly could. The sound of the food entering Brabus's mouth made Elaine's legs go soft and she could feel her stomach churning out of hunger. Brabus ate up all the steamed buns and she ate about 1/3 of the porridge before she deliberately dropped the lunchbox on the ground. At this time, all the porridge spilled onto the ground immediately. Brabus pretended to be annoyed as she sighed and said, "Ah! I spilled the porridge. This is such a waste." As she spoke, Brabus waved her hand at Elaine before she said, "Go to the toilet and bring the mop over here and wipe this clean for me." Elaine was never the kind of person who cherished food in her entire life. She had never even finished her own bowl of rice before. However, she could not help but feel very distressed as she looked at the porridge that was spilled on the ground at this time. When Brabus saw Elaine staring intensely at the porridge that was spilled on the ground, she smiled before she said, "Elaine, if you are really hungry, you can kneel on the ground and lick the porridge." When Elaine heard these words, she felt so wronged and humiliated that she really wanted to die. Kneel on the ground and lick the porridge? The ground was so dirty. How many people have already stepped on this floor? Furthermore, the mop in the toilet was so black and dirty. How could she possibly stoop so low to lick the porridge off the ground? She would never lick the porridge off the ground even if she had to starve to death. As she thought about this, Elaine hurriedly said, I will just get the mop to clean up this mess. Braba sneered before she said, "You can do whatever you want, but you will definitely lick the food off the ground sooner or later. Just wait and see if you do not believe me."